As the 70s roll in, stability around the world has never been as shaky. Interplanetary alliances join together to seek ideological supremacy across both planets. Cultural shifts are uprooting norms that have been in place for centuries. Technological shifts have been changing how the world itself functions. As these shifts occur, life continues in the Seedbearer region, where a seemingly random group of people have come together to try and make sense of the nonsensical. This is Hazeltown Story. Alright, so we are here for a kind of a post-mortem of the last arc that we did, the Strange Magic one, after which was a kind of a test run, although it kind of turned into its own proper arc. But kind of going over some changes that we made before that to kind of balance some things out. So we are now balancing the balance patches, which is always fun. So I think we're getting good at what I think we're getting closer to what ideally should be. We're kind of getting some good polish on our mechanics, but I did feel like there was some rough spots that I think we should address and figure out how we want to go ahead and do that. So why don't you go and, just for proper sake, why don't you go and introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Carnival.
I'm Deathmaster780.
And I'm TorpidTypist.
All right. So, I guess going off, I guess to start this out, why don't we just go ahead and say, does anyone have anything they specifically want to call out first?
Me.
Go for it.
How much stress does Foresight cost?
All right, yeah. So, Foresight. So...
Call it Foresight because it costs 4 stress.
So, that was an oversight of me, when I came up with the Vox, the major skill, I wanted it to kind of be a more odd mixture of other things ability, which just kind of comes from the fact that this used to be like back when you could only pick one, but now that you can actually have doubled, which means you're going to have some kind of overlap sometimes, which there's a couple of ways we can do that. Either we, standardize on what the cost is, because that's a clairvoyance skill, right? Because on clairvoyance it's 2, on the Vox it's 3. So simple change would be to just make it 2.
Yeah.
The slightly more complicated change would be to eliminate all overlap. But that means I'd have to come up with another ability, which that was already fun enough on its own.
I mean, the point of the Vox is it has just this smattering of other abilities.
Yeah.
Which I think that's probably the best to keep it.
Yeah, just keep the keep it there, just bring the cost down.
Yep. And I would rather make things cheaper, especially because then you're just not going to use it. But yeah, so Foresight, I think the easiest thing, I just made 2, and so it is 2 off the bat. Did anyone else have something that they wanted to call out?
I do. Let's talk about athletic training for a minute.
Do we want to just talk about all the trainings
Yes.
for a bit? So, the action roll boosts. I think I was a little overzealous. I don't know if it would be the right term. Because as part of if you take the training in lieu of a magic, that gets you a +1 boost to like all 3 of the corresponding like types of like the skill, which that's a smidge overpowered.
That is huge.
So
Yeah.
I have a basic idea on how to fix it, which is instead of having all 3, you just get 1.
Yeah, you just pick one.
Which I think that's an easy enough. You just highlight which one you want. That's a pretty easy enough change.
It was a highlighted per session, or you just pick one total? I forgot.
I was thinking 1 total because I feel like since it's a character building thing, that it is something that is like a signature of the character.
Nope, that's fine. I just remembered we talked about that, so I just wanted to get that clarification on Mike.
Yeah, I would say keeping it per character. I think that the other stuff, like the specialties for the trainings, like we know that in the last thing, both sportsmen paid out.
Yeah, I mean, plus effect is always going to pay out, though.
Yeah. Like, I don't think that was overpowered. I think that's what you get. Also, Bull Sportsman is just fun to say.
Yes.
I will say this, a weird thing to point out of all the trainings. I get the idea you're going with Auto Sportsman, but all of the other trainings apply to all 3 of the stats.
Yeah, well, except for medical training.
Yeah.
But that's kind of its own thing.
Well, no, what I mean is, so like academic training is plus effect to research, tinker, or interface, and then it's the same mental, but then athletic is strike, maneuver, but nothing for aim.
Yeah,
which I will have you know, skeet shooting is a sport, and fuck you.
Yeah, I mean that is right. That is the thing. Is I when I was doing that, I was just kind of thinking, because I think we were talking about something that we wanted something to as a boost for driving. Is I think the reason for that.
Yeah.
That being said, I do think that it would be more in line with the other ones. Plus, it would be infinitely more useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we've kind of just in general shied away from vehicular stuff.
Yeah, because that's not exactly in the scope of the thing.
We are very urbanite.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of what to phrase it. There's a term that I'm trying to think of that, like, your biathlon and your IPSC and all that. It's there's a term for it, and it's just leaving my head of something sport.
Marksmanship.
Marksman. You know what? I'm just gonna change this to practical marksmanship, or just marksman to keep it like that. And then this is just gonna be turned into
Practical marksmans.
But it is your skeet shooting. It is your
archery, all that. Yeah.
It is in lieu of you are not necessarily a sniper.
But yes, you spelled marksman wrong.
I see that.
Practical marksmans.
That's when you have more than one.
Yep.
Attorneys General.
Man.
So I was just gonna. Nope. That's. You know what? That worked.
Oh Jesus, that's huge.
Yeah. You know.
Why is a big boy?
Where's Farm?
For reference, Lolo made the text briefly very big.
So what I did was I tried to. I did a format paint on using the check mark as the thing to paint over, and that is a huge text.
Nope, it instead shows the size of the check mark.
Yeah, so we're gonna do these, and then I guess you can just, I don't know, you do a format paint. Oh, actually, that's not gonna work actually, because that's gonna merge, isn't it? It did work. Okay, that worked fine. But regardless, also I could probably do this off recording, but yeah, I think big thing is making the action roll boost. You pick one.
Yeah, no, because otherwise that's just 3 fucking dice across the board.
Yeah. One thing also, which speaking of boosts, that I am going to think that I am considering, but it's the thing that I don't have a good offhand a good replacement for it, which is the concept of drawing a concealed weapon. Because I feel like for Queen being a fairly new character, getting a shit ton of dice really early.
To be fair, I was deliberately abusing the system.
Yeah, and it points things out like that. But
concealed weapon one is, I don't think it's bad on paper. The problem is it just interfaces weirdly with like fist weapons. Yeah,
because it's like if this is like a say this is like a Edo period Japan thing, and you have an Eido perk, it would make sense. But
I mean, even then, if it's like just drawing a weapon, like pulling out a knife or what have you, it makes sense. But it's specifically any sort of martial ability, like martial art or whatever.
And it's the problem with the way the mechanics work that unarmed counts as a weapon.
As a weapon, yeah.
We could solve that by just saying unarmed does not. You always have unarmed. It is in its own understood slot. Like it's not a explicit slot in the list. It's just you have it. Because I mean, also you have the thing where it's like Queen, where it's just 3 different type of feet.
I just did that because it's funny.
Yeah, but it also illustrates the fact that, well, I think in spirit that I think unarmed should be its own category. That's just it's a understood slot.
Yeah, and we're also we're not a wuxia game, so different types of armed combat is not what we're doing.
Yeah, and it's like you can have like you can have like an item. Like I think something in the item slot makes sense to make your unarmed better. Like I think that makes sense. That being said, we could also rewrite some of the things for concealed. That it does make sense that there should be some things, like especially in the muscle, that boost unarmed skills. And I can go through and check to see which.
Yeah, it's like one of those weird things, like having your normal fists is one thing, but then there are brass knuckles which overwrite your fists.
That's the thing that I'm thinking. What rather than those being counted as a weapon, they should be counted as an equipment.
Like complementary, yeah.
Yeah, so like the thing with the lockpick set, for example, where it's not necessarily it's a buff to your abilities rather than its own slot. Because it makes sense, like a brass knuckle can just fit into like it fits on your hand, like it can fit in your pocket just as easily as a lockpick set can.
Yeah, and that's why they're illegal in most states.
So it makes sense that that can be considered more of a accessory rather than a weapon. So I think what we should do is we should consider those kind of things so it's not, and then maybe having a perk. This could be something that for the muscle where you get your monk thing, where if you don't have any weapons, your unarmed gets a buff or something akin to that. Like if you're not carrying like a holstered weapon or a concealed, like something big that you can get a buff to it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Because Queen's essentially built like a monk.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's that weird Orientalism. So
well, I mean, yes, but
please, she's a former Soviet.
Because I was trying to think, does Aravia Aravia almost has the same thing, although she has a handgun.
Yep, Aravia gets a handgun, also tends to use not really her fists, but more
bludgeons.
Yeah.
Which there's something I could argue that's necessary. That's unarmed or like improvised weapons. I think should also, if we're gonna keep unarmed as its own,
have their own bespoke category as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Which they could even potentially share, because you could argue that unarmed is like a martial art, and like there is a bespoke martial art category.
Behold, our good pal Aravia in her trained art of Krav Maga.
I would avoid that just because we're not a combat. Like, this has been an arc of combat testing, but like we're getting into the careful thing of like, why are we writing combat rules that are way more detailed than anything else when we don't come into combat super rarely.
Which is why I'm thinking of just saying, hey, anything that's not you have essentially fists plus improvised, you have you hurting someone with the pointy or bludgeoned or blunt part of the stick, or you shoot them, is effectively your three categories.
Yeah.
And even like the hit someone with pointy or bludgeon stick and shoot are just the only difference between those mechanically are range, which even that is not necessarily
the theater of the mind.
It is the fact that I think we have had one case in which range could have potentially done a thing, where in the last one, if you were in the basement, if you tried to go from like one side of the basement with the other with like a pocket pistol, you would have problems. But that really wasn't a problem. So I think we should consider that, and then I could go through and then figure out like, oh, hey, we can rewrite this instead of working with concealed necessarily, that it's can work with unarmed. As far as that, there wasn't anything specific. I just remember the concealed thing being this gets weird. I think everything else worked pretty fine. Like, there was like a decent amount of actual flubs last time. Even in cases of like, you'd have you'd figure like the odds were very much in your favor, but they ended up not being.
Oh, I noticed something.
What was that?
So Magic Bane and Transform are their own special skill set. Hey Lolo, could you read off to me what it is?
In what thing?
What category of skill Magic Bane and Transform are?
Did I misspell inherit? They're both inherit skills. Oh, one's missing a description, but
Very greatly misspelled inherit.
yeah, that's the thing where it is. I wish Google Sheets had a spell check.
Inherit.
It is the thing that, just a little behind the scene thing. I write a lot of this at work. Usually, also sometimes on my phone.
I also will say this. I like the Magic Bane. It does fall in a teensy bit of an awkward spot, though that's largely by design. That said, I do think explosive incompatibility could maybe have its description changed a bit to something clearer.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where it was like, okay, what does this actually affect? I think the thing that it should point out is that if it's one of those magical abilities where it's like you're like trying to like directly manipulate, like the thing where it's you're trying to
You can't set the person. You can't make the person spontaneously combust, but the fireball is still going to catch the person on fire.
Yeah, it's the thing of like if you're using magic to like send something, like you're trying to fling that thing, your Magic Bane's not going to like negate or like it's not going to completely take the kinetic energy of that moving object away.
Basically, it depends on if it's centered on you or not.
Yeah, which that's kind of what I had in mind. Like, a lot of the stuff of like telepathy would definitely count.
Yeah. Also, the other thing is Backfeed and Mundane Mind kind of feel a similar niche.
Yes.
So you might want to go back to the drawing board with one of them.
Yeah, that is actually pretty much the same thing.
Clarify, Backfeed is if someone attempts to use magic that affects your mind, they automatically receive a backfeed imposing 1 harm and 2 stress against them. And Mundane Mind is attempts to read your mind return nothing but static.
Yeah. Also, for the most part, that's not. Well, I guess technically it accounts because if you run into someone with Magic Bane, the 1 harm 2 stress would affect you. But also, I kind of think just leaving it without a discrete penalty is probably for the better, because then that gives wiggle room for effectiveness and all that.
Basically, the severity of what's attempted on you returns relative harm.
I'll have to think about some things to change with Magic Bane.
Yeah. Also, Weirdness Zapper is another one of those, like,
Yeah, I think that was the one that it's just, we're going to keep this from the old one, and then it's Weirdness Zapper, which is supernatural, are somehow drawn to you. I think that either change it so that it's something completely different, or it is something that is you get a discrete effect on it. Like you get a explicit effect.
Because like Weirdness Zapper is another one of those things that you have zero control over, and he's largely not something the DM would ever need to factor in, honestly.
Yep, you're a protagonist. Weird shit happens to you by nature of your existence.
Yeah, I think the intended effect, and there is a discrete effect I had in mind for it, which is basically that if you're dealing with a supernatural creature, it knows where you're at. It basically has the constant effect of detect life or detect magic, where if it's within a certain distance of you, it just knows where you are.
It's like seeing a walking black hole.
Yeah. It's like it doesn't know what's there. It just knows that something is there.
It feels something wrong. Yes.
There's a void just around and scary.
Should probably change the language to reflect that then.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. Is just the Magic Bane could use some rewrites is all. Maybe change out Mundane Mind. But I like the concept at its core.
Yeah. Also, giving it a little bit more flavor would help. Like, one of the things I was thinking of is, like, magic allergy, which is basically that if you're by someone, or depending upon certain, like, magical beings will have an allergic reaction to your presence.
I was going to say,
like that.
Would you be able to feel magic bullshit going on purely because of your condition?
That also could be something where it is, like, you are Well, magic cannot happen to you. You can feel magic, but it's like. Also, I thought we had this, and that maybe this is what I had an effect of backfeed, which is if you were within, like, if you can grab which I thought this actually was a thing.
Well, yeah, so that's the weird thing too that I was actually also going to mention is like Toby explicitly has magic technology literally break on him all the time.
Which is the thing. I thought that was actually an ability in this. I didn't realize that wasn't, and I thought that was in there. Because I just kept on seeing, like, backfeed or something, and I thought that was that.
Which is why I find the image in my head of Queen riding around on a bicycle hilarious.
Yeah, so I think that might be a good replacement.
Because cars can't be trusted.
We got internal combustion engines that work fine.
Magic is cheap and convenient.
Well, actually, that is a lore thing, that all vehicles are electric, essentially.
Right.
But so the thing with that is that there's a specific class of items that I was thinking that could potentially break, like things that really, like, your mundane, like a toaster oven would not break on them, but like a very specified magical, like, device, like one of those magical guns, you could just, like, grab it and just snap it. Well, not snap it, but it would, like...
yes, do what the fucking boss does to you in Metal Gear Solid 3.
Pretty much.
Just grab it out of their hand and dismantle it in seconds.
Basically, if it was, like, the equivalent of, like, an electrical thing, where it's just basically grab the gun, and just all the capacitors in it blow up. So,
yeah, no.
That is something I kind of thought was already in there, but that should replace one of them.
Look, we've been working on this for years now. There's gonna be some drift.
Also, Magic Bane is fairly niche, and so far, only two characters have it, and only one of them's really gotten any use, and that's
yeah. So I think Magic Camouflage. So, as a full list, Magic Camouflage and Mundane Mind are going to get rewritten as one of them being Magic Allergy, and the other one being the ability to break certain objects.
I mean, Magic Camouflage, I think, is good as it is, but
backfeed. Backfeed and Mundane Mind, and then Weirdness Zapper. I'm going to rewrite that to be a
bit more overt.
Yeah, so I think that should work. We've only had one case for a transform. Did anyone have any problems with their magical abilities in terms of feeling that there was something that should be there that isn't?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, because the standard magical bolts seem to work pretty well.
Transform was fun, and just had everyone start passing the sword.
I will say this: Harmonic Lullaby is fucking weird for Audiomancy. Now that I'm looking at it. Its action roll places a target into a sleep that lasts for the remainder of encounter. Upon awakening, 4 harm is restored. Stress cost 4.
Yeah, so the ideal thing was that basically it's the rest ability from Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just like prohibitively expensive.
Yeah, I would.
Well, it's also the problem is that no one has rolled Audiomancy yet.
Yep.
Or Animance, which actually is something from my point of view, from the equipment that your characters have, which I find kind of interesting, is that no one has brought a med kit.
Because we don't fight.
Yeah.
Also, something really quick.
Yeah.
This is dumb nitpicky stuff that's kind of an aside. Why does Wizardry have a different font?
Wait, what? Wait, where?
Look at the sets of abilities.
Okay, where is...
The text is slightly larger.
No, it's definitely a different font.
Are you sure? Because I'm looking at mine and it's not.
Well,
then it's just larger.
Look at the text for Wizardry. That's the action roll compared to like the one above it for the Vox.
Oh yeah, what the hell? What is that? That's a good. Okay, that is a different. Yeah, why is it Arial? It's a good point.
Funny you mentioned that. Also, look at telepathy's support ability.
Yeah, I bet you that's going to be. I'll have to go and fix that.
These are really minor things. I just it caught my eye when I was looking.
It is the thing that I would have never noticed that. Yeah.
So going back though, as far as archetypes, what do y'all think? Where they stand now?
I think they're all got a good core to them now. It's part of the problem is one, we only have you can't have more like we're not gonna have like a 5-person group going into one of these.
Oh God, no! For the love of God,
So
no!
we've only got so many people who in like the three of
Yeah.
us. There's only so many people we can switch through, and like I bet like what 7 characters now.
Yeah,
Six.
yeah, because let's see. Well, let's see. Since it's close, DM has 4. Carnival, you have Virtue, you have Yuhar, you have Peony, you have Elmis and Claudia, and then Torpo has Arabian Queen.
So like
So-
we've got a good coverage. It's just we haven't had a chance to get everyone out there yet.
Yeah, it's so that you don't have to balance between 7,000 characters.
I mean, yeah, but
I mean, for the most part, we've covered a good majority of them.
yeah, no, I meant
Yeah.
like what we covered in these past tests, like the new or the changed classes. Like, what did y'all think?
They seemed fine.
Fine.
Yeah, because I know, Torpo, you were thinking about the rogue being weird.
Yeah, the rogue is still a little awkward, but I kind of understand what you were going for with it.
I think also now that we've kind of clarified some things with regards to concealed weapons and unarmed combat, I think that I can kind of work with that a little bit more.
Yeah, but like get him on tilt is still a little awkward as much as I like the idea of it.
Yeah. Like having an ability, like a taunt ability, I think is like, it's very fitting for the rogue, but to actually activate it kind of feels weird. Like it's almost the thing of like, I wonder if it's a thing that is like as an action roll, you get an alternate attack that you deal half damage, but also you get this thing, but that also might be
Or like trading increased effect for no defense or something like that.
something like that. Like you can
Effect, and then you take if you resist, you take -1 on the die for the resist roll.
that could work. There's a couple things we can do about that.
Yep. I mean, take initiative is take initiative. That one's always kind of weird.
Yeah, that is also one of the ones that is taken verbatim from other systems.
That's just one that is every Forge in the Dark game. When
Yeah,
even some other games
use it other than a jackass.
it is the thing of like we don't really do initiative rolls, so
Well, you don't do initiative rolls in Forge in the Dark. It just means if the players were caught off guard, your character who has to take initiative or whatever it's called in that game, you get the first say of like, okay, here's what I do for the roll before anyone else gets to react. It's not necessarily there aren't initiative rolls to be done. It's more of just a sudden situation has changed. You are first.
it's also the thing that I wonder if we should rewrite it to be like basically you cannot be taken off guard or something like that. But that might be a little bit overpowered. But that's kind of what that is.
That's what it is that when you can be surprised, definitely. It's just you are always going to be like in that situation. The GM has to come to you for, okay, you've got the first action, and then everything else spirals from there.
Okay, so there's that.
I have one.
Yeah.
Under the agent.
Yep.
There's a path over. It's all connected down near the bottom.
Yep. Let's see. Somehow your own personal subject of investigation is more likely to tie into the current mission. That is incredibly situational. Yeah, that is something that I could either rewrite to be more. It's almost the thing that I wonder if it is the you can take like during a downtime action. You can take you can work on a personal project to tie the current investigation with something of your own that you have the resources to like connect or something like that.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna need more like thinking on.
Yeah, that's
Also,
something that.
Go on.
Yeah, it is something that I'll need to mull over a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, going back to the rogue, I do actually really like the idea behind likes to live dangerously. That one's a neat one, which is basically you roll better on desperate rolls, but you don't get experience. And given the old one too is also solid, which is the roll better outcomes on fist weapons.
Wait, you don't
But,
get experience at all? That seems like that breaks the curve, or is it? What is it?
It's basically you can choose to take an action roll or a +1d on action rolls.
Oh, okay. I was just.
It's a choose thing. I forgot to clarify. It's not always there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just want to clarify because
It's basically, do you want to win this roll, or are you okay with fucking it up? What? I also really quick, Pop Goes the Weasel. What do you mean neutralize?
So basically basically try and kill it.
Okay.
It should be clarified if it's going to be something lethal or not. Then just
Yeah. See, I wasn't sure if it was knockout or not.
So the idea that I had in mind was either. That's why I said neutralize. You either subdue it or you kill it.
Okay. Then yeah, neutralize works there. It's just it has to be consistent of like, yes, it is just taking something out of the fight and not murder.
Yeah. You are trying to make this thing no longer a problem using violence.
The power of violence.
Yes.
Great equalizer.
All right. Did anyone else have anything that they wanted to mention? I mean, not really. People didn't really seem to use equipment that much.
Equipment's in a weird spot just because it's one of those things where it's like it's one of those things with like a weird spot of like don't know how much we actually need like as full equipment rules as we need, more than like we have this thing, it gives the narrative permission to do this thing.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to think. Or go ahead.
Some of that is on you to like throw stuff where we would need those at us more.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because this was the first time that we've had a case where Torpo almost ate shit. Actually,
it's the second time.
Well, second time. Well, Aravia definitely passed out at one point. But I think from a harm knockout, I think this was the first one. But granted,
Aravia passing out was also because of getting dazed, and then just kind of things got wonky from there because of the way the unique worked.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's the thing is like if you were more on threat of actually going down from harm, it would make sense that someone would carry like a med kit or something, but you just have not had a need for it.
Also, like nobody we use has any sort of medical training.
Yeah, but I think there's one of them that is just basically a generic, hey, if you use this, you get like 2 harm back or something.
Also, there was once someone who had animancy, thank you, and then they just didn't.
Yeah.
Get anymore.
Yeah. Oh. Anyway, did anyone else have anything?
Nah, I can't think of any last minute stuff.
No, it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty like at this point. We have hit the everything now is just small refinements.
Yeah, I think
equipment is still a little weird, but I think it's always going to be that way.
Yeah, because we've just not had a need for it. So anyway, I guess if that is going to be the case, that is going to do it for this kind of discussion. Unless anyone had any quick last minute things.
Nope.
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess with that, we are from this point just to make sure to give me some extra time. We are going to be on hiatus, probably for the entire month of September. Just as I try and work on the next arc, because this will be the next time we kind of get together will be it'll be a proper arc. And also, I think when we get back, I think it is going to. There are some things also that I'm not 100% certain of, but might be some slight, not quite setting changes, but there's some things I have in mind just because how the tone of the missions have gone. There might be some more background stuff that might change, but yeah, I think with that is probably going to do it. And by probably, I mean it is. So I guess with that, I will hopefully see you all when we come back.
Most important lesson we learned is never trust Queen to a job where you want anyone alive.
Yes.
Or really anyone in that group.
Hey! Claudia tried. She failed miserably at it, but...
Yes.
I mean, look, Saskia put up like some token resistance, I guess, but...
Oh, she was...
Initially...
No, she wasn't even trying. It's just you beat her to the punch and killing people.
Yeah.
I meant when you wanted to get that dude knocked out.
Yeah,
that one guy who then bit us in the ass.
Oh, she only did interrogate him. He was dead afterwards.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, with that, thank you all for listening. Thank you for listening to Hazeltown Story. If you would like to get updates on this show and many other shows hosted by me, LoloDePuzlo, you can follow @Hazeltown Story on Twitter. And if you would like to get to know me, or from a personal standpoint, you can follow my personal Twitter @LoloDePuzlo.
If you would like to watch this be recorded live, you can go to twitch.tv/LoloDePuzlo and follow the channel for notifications of when this show, as well as other shows like Retro Rank Rhapsody, are being recorded. If you would like to add this podcast to your podcatcher of choice, you can search for WLDP Hazeltown Radio and find us on most major podcatching search engines. Or you can manually add rss.hazeltown.life to your podcatcher. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come around for the next episode.